Namaste. Hello everyone. Welcome again to my NPTEL course on interior design. Today we are at lecture 11 and we will try to understand varied spaces. So what is a retail space, what is a workspace, a transient space, etc. And a very brief discussion also on concepts of place and space. So we will try to understand each of this typology of space along with the concepts of place and space. I have tried to put together some videos which will help your understanding deepen about the different kinds of spaces that we are talking about. And of course, I have put a list together for references so that you can further see and read about them. So when we talk about retail spaces in the interior design industry or in the interior architecture domain, retail spaces are very important. They generate a lot of revenue and they are very sought after as far as the interior design industry is concerned. So when I say retail spaces, these are the spaces that sell products, services and experiences. So you might have been to a Tanishq store, Adidas store or a Nike store, etc. So these are all, different kinds of retail spaces. And when we talk about designing of retail spaces, it's very important that the design reflects the brand values. And, there is an attempt to capture positive relationship between the brand and the customer. So retail interior design basically refers to organizing and designing of retail spaces. And the prime objective, like I was telling, is to focus on the brand narrative, to enhance the spatial experience, build a relationship with the customer and try to invite them, design it in such a manner that they become your repeat customers, etc. Now, there are some very crucial principles, that any interior designer must try to employ, especially with regard to the retail store design. So, the first one is the visual merchandising or the VM. And the primary goal of VM is to boost sales, to draw customers, and have persuasive window displays, have interesting in-store display and layout that will entice the customers. It will make them stay in the store for longer time. It will help them make purchases, and it will also have positive shopping experience and good user experience for all the customers, and they would want to come back ideally. So that would be a successful retail store design employing the principle of visual merchandising. Also, it's very important how the layout of the store is conceived and executed. So, it's very important that when we talk about the retail store layout, we understand how retailers arrange their inventory, product displays, and store fixtures. So, these are very important aspects. And this kind of a store layout, it requires, carefully utilizing the available space, and it has to impact the customer experience in the maximum possible way because it is going to greatly influence their purchase behaviors. And it's very also important to capture and capitalize on the five senses, and that will also be very crucial aspect of design. So for any kind of a repeat customer, the sensory marketing and the enhancement of these senses is also very important, and it gives them some kind of an experience that is incomparable, unforgettable, and therefore if all the five senses are focused upon through the design, it does bring lots of customers because it does have memory associations and good experiences. So we are talking about sight, of course the smell. It's not only true just for, a brand like Starbucks or coffee. Smell could become a part of any other brand which has nothing to do with gastronomy. So it depends how we are creatively designing any store. Also, there is the sense of taste, there is a sense of touch, what kind of tactility are we providing, what kind of surface finishes are being designed so that, they give an experience while they are being touched when the customer is inside the store. What kind of sounds and how do they arrest and, please the customer. Material selection is another important principle, very important, I would say. And what materials are used is definitely going to affect usefulness, suitability, what is the ability to sell goods, and how the consumers get drawn to the store. So, this interesting case study of Aesop, it's very interesting to look at the material palette they employ, and they focus a lot on the sustainable material and it does reflect on the brand image also, because there is a lot of concern for sustainability, and they promote it by demonstrating the use of sustainable materials within their design. Then, another interesting principle or important principle is the direct customer in the right direction. So, if we talk about the psychology or human behavior, the customers tend to gravitate automatically towards the right. So, when one enters the store, the customers usually go towards the right. So, it is important to, keep this point in mind and automatically direct customers towards this anti clockwise direction starting from the right hand side. And it's possible, to position eye catching signs, point of sale displays, and all of these on the right side of the store, so that this, can be used as an advantage for the retail store design. Looking at the human behavior and the way they naturally gravitate towards the right side. Then another important aspect is the center of attraction. What could be the focal points that, could be noticeable, and how they are placed, at what eye levels, at what positions they are put inside the store, that they naturally attract the customers. They could be large objects, there could be striking colors to create the center of attraction. It could be a combination of smaller objects put together in a certain pattern or arrangement. Also, the mannequins become an important part when we try to create center of attraction, and putting the latest apparel collection or some kind of interesting, the details over these mannequins also become a part of the design vocabulary, and they impart a center of attraction for the entire in-store designs. Good lighting is very important when we talk about the retail interior design. And primarily there could be three kinds of lighting that could be used. So there is ambient lighting, there is spot lighting, and there is task lighting. So the ambient lighting provides overall illumination to the store, and the spotlight will provide, the lights on the focal points, such as window displays. And the task light would be focused on areas that need more attention on them. So one has to carefully design the good lighting. For example, the changing rooms require a lot of light, and hence there has to be a careful handling in terms of lighting design when we talk about the changing rooms. So these principles are very important, and they help achieve very balanced and functional design when we talk about the retail stores. Now, looking at some of the case studies, this is one example of a store from Soho. And here the store layout is somewhat unidirectional and linear, but it's very, very efficient. It's not confusing. There are some island displays also, like we see in lots of stores, some of the displays which are kept, at the center, and then the objects are displayed on that. There are also some wall supported display units. So wall mounted display units have been used. They provide very interesting design vocabulary and language to the overall store. Also, the wall mounted display has a certain language which is harmonious to that of the staircase. So this is what they have tried to use over here. This is the landing of the staircase, and there are the bags, hanging from this landing. So this entire harmony is created, and there is a flow of spaces, or continuity has been maintained when the customer is navigating through these spaces and looking at, different objects. So display system is relatively simple, but it is very, very elegant, and it's done very efficiently. Here, if we look at the layout, there is a color coding to help understand the different kinds of products that have been put together. So there is handbag, there is luggage over here, then there are leather goods, we see this color coding. There are amenities, public amenities like toilets, and then the office space, of course, and there is also storage. So this kind of arrangement is done very meticulously and systematically through kind of color coding and demarcating the spaces and zones where particular products or services are displayed. And this, what I was explaining, the bottom of the staircase landing is used to suspend bags, and it also creates a point of attraction and attention. So these are the details that could be incorporated within retail store design. And this is the exterior facade that is seen over here. This is the conceptual diagram and the detail we already saw on the previous two slides. Again, now very famous Dolce & Gabbana, that's a case study over here. And this is primarily the interior renovation of, DNG Venice Palazzo. And here the vision was celebrating both the richness of the product as well as city's cultural history. So city, the context, the cultural history, or the history of the brand itself, all those stories can become a very, very important part of your, design, and it can create a sort of an interesting narrative. And here we see, like, an 800 square meter boutique, and this has very, very luxurious and rich interiors that we see over here, going by the legacy and popularity of Dolce and Gabbana. And this is the plan done quite efficiently, and we see very interesting presence of a welcome room. I found that very nice about this project. So there's a historical welcome room. There is a segment for jewelry, which is all marked by number 3. There are, segments for women's shoes and clothing at number 4. So they have been put together over here. Men's formal wear, women's formal wear, dressing room over here. So it's done very efficiently, the entire layout, and all the spaces have been, designed for optimal usage, carefully utilizing the entire area. And then here we see the color palette, the furnishings, the motifs, and the kind of treatment which is given to the interior space. These are some of the pictures. This is the exterior facade of the store with the signage and identity over here. These are more details. This is a display area which is done very, very elegantly. Continuing with the case study, this is an interesting detail over here. So, it's a 65 feet long and 15 feet high room. And here we look at this wall which has entire gold leaf detail over it. And here the handbags are displayed over the brass brackets. So it's a very interesting play of material, it's interesting play of textures, and this entire sort of focal piece is created. It almost looks like an installation or a sculpture within the entire space. Then another important detail is this mirror polished marble, and again, the shiny brass. This has been used consistently throughout the store, but handled in different ways for different sections, for different products that are being displayed. And then there is a lot of use of reflections. And what reflections do, they double the apparent size of the room. They create a very large volume, and they also provide escape for the eye. So these are very interesting details. While the volume is so, huge, still there is space to, for eyes to escape, so that the customer does not get overwhelmed by those details. So this comes by careful consideration, by experience, by learning, by formal training, how to incorporate these details within an interior architecture project. This is another very interesting case study from China. We will have, we will play a video now here for you to understand more details.
Arc'teryx, the store whose design revolves around its brand's DNA. Breaking away from the norm. The team embraces warm, toned lighting, textures, and diverse spatial languages, emphasizing natural indoor and outdoor experiences. Functionality blends seamlessly with a sense of community, creating a spiritual destination for snow enthusiasts. Basically, the store is envisioned as a campfire in the snow, which sets the tone of the spatial narratives. As visitors enter, they're met with the captivating glacier installation, its crystal texture contrasting the warm, spatial tone. Moving forward, they encounter movable cabinets and hanging racks, showcasing the brand's unique design while maintaining harmony with the overall space. The circular veranda acts as a buffer zone between indoors and outdoors, welcoming natural light and views through large French windows. It blurs the boundary between nature and the artificial, enhancing the shopping experience. In the Mountain Skills Training Zone, dark gray stones and neat wooden lines create a rustic atmosphere, merging contrasts in perfect harmony. Arc'teryx is not just a store, it's a sanctuary where visitors can connect with their passion for the outdoors.
Now let's talk about workspaces. Now basically office interior design deals with, designing workplaces, and the intention is to maximize productivity and also taking care of the performance by the employees taking care of their well-being, all of that. And it's all about creating functional spaces which provide a setting for success. The important aspect is also to make these spaces, happy, so that people feel happy to be there and work. And there could be a range of office interiors, starting from decorative to functional and a mix of all of these. So different elements could be used within office interior setup. And there have to be important considerations, everything starting from furniture, color, material palette, to lighting quality, what is the decor like, and what are the sensory experiences within the space, while trying to capture the essence of the brand and create a story about the organization. So it's a very meticulous process, and it has to come together as a cohesive piece. There are some important principles when we talk about workspace design. So the important part is how we are designing the common spaces or common areas. So these spaces, they could be dotted with seats and coffee tables. There could be impromptu brainstorming sessions that happen here. Or it could be just for a quiet contemplation and maybe just a break from work. They are ideally not meant for roundtable discussions or sessions. And a big table or lines of counters, they could provide great spots to relax. They, have some kind of a spirited chat, but they're not great as such for long work stretches, because for that we have more ergonomic and comfortable office furniture and office setup. Then another important consideration is the sound quality and sound masking. So sound quality is very crucial for any company's workplace environment. And there is a wide array of products which is available, something like a custom colored panel all the way to an architectural element that could mask sound or create a calm productive space. All of these will come handy while designing, good office interior space which has sound masking. Then also it's important to incorporate natural lighting. We have been talking about well-being, indoor air quality, indoor environment quality, health perspective, how to get our projects designated as green interiors. So natural light is very important for, the employees to feel rested and positive, and it impacts their overall health and performance quite a lot. So there are few tips which could be used for incorporating natural lighting into any office space. So for example, using smart glass panels that adjust from transparent to opaque instead of interior walls could be like one tip or strategy. Then also keeping the lines of furniture and storage clean and minimalist could also be an interesting way, to allow natural light to reach every inch of the space. And then considering partitions and architectural accents instead of walls for ensuring privacy. There could also be use of reflective surfaces to maximize the impact of natural light. And then, those surfaces could also be lighter in color so that, the light is reflected well and it's not absorbed as much. Then there are gloss finishes, mirrors, and lighter colors, like I was telling. They all boost light, so they could be chosen and, incorporated within the design strategies. Another interesting or important aspect is to, utilize wall murals, natural elements, and environmental graphics. They can really tie the area's natural beauty to company's culture also, and they also provide nice aesthetics and break from the overall workspace environment. Then it's also important to plan for, plenty of storage and to choose healthy and comfortable furniture, because we're talking about office interior spaces, and furniture is going to be used for a very, very long duration, for long sitting hours or long standing hours, and it has to be carefully designed and very, very comfort promoting. So long hours are spent, so comfort is the key. And all the chairs have to be ergonomically designed. They have to support your spine and back, because health is also very important. So adjustable chairs could be a very good choice for office interior design. And continuing with the plenty of storage and comfortable furniture, closed storage could be an interesting, part of the office interior space design, because, they hide the clutter behind them. So it's, quite interesting to provide finished and polished designs using these kinds of storage units wherever they could come handy. Now, one of the case studies to look at could be the Lookup headquarters. And here, what they have tried to do is, the requirement of flexible open workspaces for a young dynamic team was the primary concern over here. And the vision was to design a space which was minimal yet, very confident and efficient. So those kinds of spaces were designed in this project. What I found very interesting in this project, if you look at the layout and the drawings, is this amphitheater, and how around this amphitheater the different spaces have been organized while leaving plenty of room for circulation and sight lines. So this I found very interesting. Workspaces do not have to be very conventional typical workspaces. We have seen the offices of Google and Facebook, etc., and they are very interesting, bold, interesting colors, areas for taking a break, like a small golf turf or an amphitheater or activities like this which can give you slight break from the mundane. So that was interesting. The another case study is from Spain, where the emphasis is on co-working spaces. And because these are different kinds of spaces and the co-work environment has to be created, the challenge is how to create a seamless office interior, because there are different activities and people are coexisting and co-working. And another challenge is that we are all going digital. There is a lot of access to information, and there's a lot of transformation happening in the way the office spaces work. They consume information, kinds of resources that are available at their disposal. So there is a paradigm shift from traditional workspaces to these unconventional contemporary spaces, especially when we're talking about co-working environments. So it is important, therefore, that the integrated and collaborative approach is taken into consideration, and there is sort of transdisciplinary approach, and there is a cross generational sort of formulae that are being put to use. So they will enhance the experience altogether. It's a very simple, elegant and clear, like layout, and it has different spaces. Like this is one space, and here also the interior landscaping has been really emphasized, which has been discussed in one of the lectures. And there are spaces like this over here and this over here. So there is a coexistence of all these spaces. There's a very seamless integration of all of these workspaces, and then it is sort of a co-work greenhouse. So it's very interesting in terms of well-being, health, and having a good indoor environment quality to it. This is another case study. This is from Turkey. This is again the office interiors, and we have a video for you here also.
The Aklam Office Turkey, a dual-purpose marvel serving as an office and a showroom for Alka, the nation's premier sportswear import supplier. From the project's inception, the team faced a monumental challenge, crafting a spacious and sunlit office floor within the constraints of limited space and an oppressively low ceiling. Sunlight streamed in from just one side, adding further complexity to the creative process. Undeterred, the architects embarked on a journey fueled by ingenuity and artistry. Each element adorning the building's surfaces, be it a natural terracotta brick or a wooden board, carried a distinctiveness that blended harmoniously, symbolizing the unity of the Alka team. Despite their apparent similarity, these elements created a rhythmic symphony of collaboration. The showroom, situated in the office's dimmest corner, became an opportunity rather than a setback. Skillfully playing with light and shadow, the architects fashioned a dark background that served as a captivating canvas. Sunbeams filtered through wooden blinds and colored glass facades, interloping in the dimly lit corridors, casting an enchanting dance of colors and shadows. A tactile masterpiece emerged in the form of the wall in the main showroom, composed of rough and textured structural components. This tactile aspect gave the office a unique character, setting it apart from ordinary designs. After tireless efforts, the architects reveled in their creation, an open, bright, and spacious office space defying the limitations of its location.
Now I'm going to talk about the living spaces. They are also very important classification when we talk about the different kinds of spaces in the interior architecture domain. So just putting it very loosely and simply, where we entertain our guests, those spaces are essentially known as living rooms for us. And also, the family could sit here together, watch TV, play cards, have some discussions. And it has to be very tasteful, comfortable, lively. And so, all these aspects are to be taken care of while designing. These are some of the images, that show the living spaces and the ideas that go in creating such spaces. And some of the principles, again, which are very important for the living room design, starting with the layout, which is of paramount importance. So, when we talk about layout, proper furniture arrangement becomes a very crucial part of this layout. And, it has to be done in the sense that it permits the traffic flow, it avoids the cluttered atmosphere, and there is enough circulation, enough sight lines, and there is breathing space. So the layout has to be designed in such a manner. Then selecting the color palette is another principle that could greatly impact the designs of the living spaces. And these color schemes do not have to restrict only to the walls. They extend to the furniture, the furnishings. So when I say furnishings, curtains, rugs, the material on the couches, etc. So the color palette extends to all of these. Also the accessories, the hardware, the handle, the metal details, all of that. So there could be a very interesting mix and match of the colors so that this entire palette comes together, which is very, very pleasant. And these entire this entire palette could be used keeping in mind that these could be used across all these areas, and either they could extend to other parts of the project, or they could create like distinct space zones with different kinds of color palettes or different kinds of details used within those subspaces. Then of course deciding on the flooring and walls, that's very important for any living room space. So the living room flooring, it can have an understated presence, or it could also have an eye-catching feature, depends what is the taste of your clientele. And the walls are going to have a major influence on the appearance of this room and the space which is going to be used either by the guests or the family itself for, coming together for certain aspects. And it's very important also to weigh whether you would like to use a wallpaper all around, or only on one wall, or some important detail like alcove, versus just using a paint all over. So these kinds of decisions have to be made, looking at the condition of the wall, what does your client want, what is the kind of taste, whether one wallpaper on small section could be used as a highlighter, or the entire room has to have a wallpaper design. So it's all up to the details that are between the designer and the clientele. Then also, like, what are the factors in the living room storage? They could become very important while designing living spaces. Of course, sufficient storage is very important. And designing storage has to be, a very smart activity. The pieces could look handsome as well as provide, a lot of affordable storage solutions. And all the cabinets or armoires, etc., all the details that goes into creating storage becomes a very important aspect of designing living room. Then the lighting again is important. We talked about the ambient task and spotlighting. There is also accent. So these kinds of lighting come handy, and when we are talking about a living room, this kind of a mood creation and using accent lights becomes interesting. Then the dress up windows. So what kind of window treatments are given within a living room so that there is an enhancement to some kind of a decor while keep in mind the functionality. And also, when we talk about the windows, the primary concern is how to provide privacy. And while, the space turns into an entertainment zone, and, people are watching movies, etc., how to take care of reducing the glare and, providing the dim lights. Again, the mood lighting, etc., that becomes important. So, how the openings and windows are placed, where is the orientation, how they are designed, so that they all sort of enhance creating this kind of environment which is conducive for watching movies, etc., becomes an important part of the design. This is a case study. This is an apartment case study. And here there was an interesting application of some creative principles, in the sense that, the new and old, how do you create a space for all kind of end users? And, while you are using some rustic or industrial elements in this design, how also there is a mix and match with some, delicate objects or systems to create this interesting environment and space. These are some of the images. So I was talking about the industrial design elements. So we see this exposed surfaces, we see this exposed material palette over here. But there are also delicate furnishings, delicate and interesting objects against this contrast between white and yellow, and very elegant furniture. So you put these things and elements together, and it requires a deeper understanding. It's not just buying products, from the market and just dumping or installing them in the space. It requires this technical understanding of creating this cohesive vocabulary, and then trying to achieve, some kind of synchronous design, even if you're trying to use contrasting elements. This is another example from Bangalore. We have a video here also.
In Bangalore, a house boasts a living room situated in the posh area. Upon entering, the space divides into two sections, the living room and the dining room. A minimal and eye-catching entryway closet greets visitors, featuring a metal mesh board world map and a pretty flower vase, adding an element of beauty. Adjacent to the entryway closet is a beigey white couch, accompanied by two chairs with floral textures that complement the minimal couch and infuse colors into the room. A coffee table with wrought iron legs serves as a statement piece. Additionally, two jute-woven mud hacks act as attractive additional seating, with a white rug bringing everything together. The living room boasts 3 large windows that reveal lush greens in the locality when the sheer curtains are drawn. Ample sunlight and daylight enter the space. On the other side of the living room lies the dining area, with elements that harmonize with the living space, featuring similar colors and lighting.
Now let's talk about restorative spaces. These are very, very important spaces. They are designated areas that allow workers to take time off work and, ensure their well-being. And it takes care of, mental health, physical health, as well as the emotional well-being. So designing these kinds of spaces is challenging, and it requires a lot of responsibility on the part of the designers. So restorative spaces, basically just trying to understand them slightly in depth. These spaces can help, cultivate the sense of privacy and comfort. And while the employees are in office, it is still possible to create a sort of a home environment, so that, the employees feel at home, because these are long working hours that one gets to spend in office setup. So these restorative spaces are sort of breathers and, breakout points. And they support occupants, by making it a priority rather than an afterthought, that, the wellness is important, the caretaking for the employees is important. So it becomes a part of the design process itself. So restorative spaces basically include different kinds of colors, textures and tones that would typically be used in home interiors to create this kind of a homely environment within, workspace. And we are seeing increase in the use of neutrals and grays to provide a sense of calm, complemented by earthy greens and blues to ground the space for employees. So these are some examples of restorative spaces. Now the key features of restorative spaces, starting with the sense of privacy. These spaces support levels of privacy, whether an employee needs a quiet moment alone. It could be for an emotional release, or it could be just in a small group sharing it with, trusted colleagues and friends. So that kind of privacy zone can be provided through restorative space design. Now it can be achieved through clear boundaries and lockable spaces, also through some kind of zoning. And then, using some signaling devices that, these devices indicate that the spaces are occupied from a distance. So it's possible to achieve this kind of sense of privacy. And, also the sound masking that we keep talking about in some of the interior design projects, especially of course office interiors, and again restorative spaces are sort of part of office spaces as well. So sound masking using nature-based sounds, for example, bird sounds, bird songs, etc., could be an interesting strategy for designing restorative spaces. Also, furniture or partitioning that we often use in these kinds of spaces, they could shield, the users from behind, and they could create a sense of security while they are still allowing a sense of prospect looking forward. Then visual stimulation is important aspect or principle to be applied while designing the restorative spaces. So our visual sense is the most dominant when we talk about the five senses, and therefore it is very, very important to have just the right level of stimulation, and so that we don't get overwhelmed. So this is an important part of the design. It can be achieved through natural light or adjustable artificial lighting, using images from nature or real forms of nature like plants, or using a very muted and calming color palette, which just gives the right amount of visual stimulation. Then, there is something known as NRSS, which is important. So it means incorporating views of gentle movement through plants or materials and soft breezes, water, dappled light, some kind of kinetic sculptures or installations within these kinds of spaces. So they provide sort of an imagery and, just take your mind off work and gives you some kind of break. And this kind of imagery could also be created through projections or, through screens, etc. And the best could be just orienting the seats and designing the layout in such a manner that there are views, natural views towards outside, and there are clear sight lines. That will also give a lot of visual stimulation. Adaptability is another important aspect. So the baseline of sensory stimuli should be very low. For example, any colors, patterns, textures, acoustics, they should be suitable for the most sensitive of users. So we have to really take into account even the most sensitive user for whom this is being designed. And there can also be additional sensory elements, and we can provide a personalized experience as well in different zones. And the adaptability can further be achieved through dimmable lights, adjustable lights, some kind of operable blinds, window blinds, etc., and video screens, audio, files that are being played over there, and so on. Another way of achieving adaptability, could be the atomizers with natural scenting. So there is also the sense of smell. And of course, the seating can be moved and shuffled and arranged and rearranged for comfortable positioning, etc. This is a small scale case study, and very interesting spaces over here that we see. And this is an example of how small scale restorative spaces can be created while we are still employing well positioned seating or furniture over here. So this is on small scale, nonetheless very interesting. This is a case study on large scale where a lot of different principles have been employed, starting from natural lighting, creation of recessed spaces like this. This is for the natural lighting over here. Furnishings and curtains for both control and privacy. Then reclined seating and how the furniture is designed. What kind of floor mat is being used over here, which is very interesting and restorative. And diversity of textures, lots of tactility, very, very diverse material palette and color palette, etc. So this is a large scale restorative space, and it could support multiple occupancy, like somebody is using this zone, somebody is using this zone, somebody could sit here next to the window. So it's providing that diversity, how this one single space could be used by different occupants for different restorative purposes, and whatever their sense of restoration is, there are possibilities within this single space. Now, talking about public spaces, very, very important, because public spaces entertain public, and it could be anyone from age 8 to 80, and there is a huge plethora of people and elements to take care of. So of course these spaces are spatially contained environments, they belong to the public sphere, These are spaces in which civil society can be seen to operate, and it's very, very important to really, design them well. And these are places of also, sociability, entertainment, leisure, commerce, as well as promoting, your cultural roots and activities aligned with tradition and culture. Some of the images of public spaces, some examples. This is the case study of one restaurant in Mumbai, and again, there is a profound use of lighting and interior design in terms of landscaping and plantation and the way the elements have been put together. So, we also have a video here.
Seesaw, the delightful all-day cafe nestled within Mumbai's prestigious Geo World Drive at Bandra Kurla complex. As you step inside Seesaw, you'll be embraced by an ambiance that beautifully mirrors the refined, homegrown essence of its menu. The interior design effortlessly harmonizes earthy and chic elements, creating an atmosphere that exudes both comfort and sophistication. Warm neutrals and earth tones dominate the color palette, inviting guests to relax and engage in meaningful conversations, fostering a sense of communal comfort. The open kitchen and bar area boast a rustic charm, adorned with terracotta tiles perfectly complementing the cafe's overall ambiance. Light green textured walls gently transition to deeper shades above, adding depth and intrigue to the space. The meticulous artistry of hand-laid Indian stones by Greenheart Floors forms a mesmerizing mosaic pattern on the floor, infusing the surroundings with artistic elegance. Above the seating area, a captivating timber and jute ceiling installation gracefully hangs, showcasing an intricate tapestry of false coffers interwoven with fine jute rope. This remarkable design not only captivates the eye, but also serves a practical purpose, reducing noise levels to create a tranquil dining environment. Concealed cove lights within the installation gently illuminate the space, casting a diffused glow that adds to the enchanting ambiance. Throughout the cafe, thoughtful seating arrangements along the glazed periphery offer guests picturesque views of both the indoor and outdoor landscapes.
Then let's talk about transient spaces. We often do not talk about transient spaces, but they are very important aspects or very important typologies when we talk about spaces. So, transient spaces actually serve as transitional zones or passages between different functional spaces. They are very important, and they are typically used for circulation, movement, or they act as connectors between different spaces or rooms. And they play a crucial role in enhancing an interior environment's overall flow, aesthetic appeal, functionality. So, crucial to look at. Now, there are, of course, design considerations when we talk about transient spaces, and a lot of importance has to be given to factors like, again, material, color scheme, furniture placement, lighting, the overall design of the gate or the door or the doorway itself. So, it is this attention to these details which will, sort of ensure that these spaces are functional as well as they sort of provide an overall aesthetic coherence and user experience within the entire interior design or interior architecture project. There are different kinds of transition, like transition between two destinations. You are leaving from here and reaching that side, or there is transition spaces between two destinations, or there is a transition between interior and exterior. From here to interior, this is the exterior part of it. This kind of transition. There is transition between nature and building, so from the outside landscape to the interior volume or interior space. And this is again another video of the CEPT University Ahmedabad, which sort of demonstrates the transition space that we are discussing.
The entrance beneath the south of the CEPT building in Ahmedabad was designed by B.V. Doshi, and it serves as a transition space connecting the building at various levels. The most intriguing aspect of the entrance is the angularity of the staircase. This feature creates an interesting framework not only in the front but also at the back, while also allowing for a dramatic drop of light at night for various events or performances. The design showcases a skillful handling of two different materials, RCC and bricks. Specifically, the ERCC staircase is intentionally separated from the wall, creating a 1-foot gap through which light passes, resulting in a captivating visual effect.
I really like Charles Correa's quote, when we are talking about interior architecture and different spaces, I'm totally driven by and absorbed by what he says. So, certainly, interior architecture is concerned with much more than just its physical attributes. It is a many layered thing, and it's important to understand as designers. So, beneath and beyond the strata of function and structure, materials and texture, lie the deepest and most compulsive layers of all. And one has to really understand this at all levels and then create a coherence within a project. Now, when I talk about this, at this junction, it is important to understand what are the concepts of place and space. I'll try to very briefly talk about them in a very overview manner. So, while they seem to be related, place and space have distinct meanings and considerations. So, when we say space, it ideally refers to the physical dimensions and the volume within a structure. So, it is sort of a measurable area. And the designers manipulate space by considering factors such as size, shape, layout, spatial relations, by using design elements, which we discussed about the architectural elements and interior elements, and also the overall spatial planning. When we talk about place, on the other hand, it goes beyond the physical dimensions. It delves into emotional and experiential aspects of a space. So it also refers to character, identity, unique qualities that assign that space a very distinctive and meaningful, definition or a purpose. And here there can be a sense of particularization or a personalization through use of very, very specific design elements. So these are quite distinct in that sense. And there is a lot of discussion between the designer and the client to achieve place because it's so particular and personalized, and it could have very specific employment of design elements to create a particular mood. For example, a cozy living room with warm lighting, comfortable furniture, it could evoke sense of intimacy and relaxation, and it could be like a place which is very personalized. The concepts of place and space intersect in interior design. So it's not like there cannot be a superset and a subset. There may be overlaps. So one has to look at the scale of the project and what is the purpose for which it is being designed. Effective design considers actually both, so some spatial attributes and some attributes of place. This is one example of a space, and then you put things together in a perspective, in a personalized manner to make a place out of it. So it's a thoughtful arrangement of different elements and careful selection of material and attention to details to create this kind of a sense of place. Now, the next lecture, continuing with the discussions that we have been doing today, will focus on important aspects, again, such as materials, finishes, specifications, some kind of application techniques, etc. So, I will see you then and I will discuss all these details. Some of the references that I have put together for you. Thank you so much. Namaste.